Hey folks, don't miss Get Shorty, the new Epix original series everyone is talking about. To make it in showbiz, a mob boss and the muscle from a murderous crime family in Nevada collide with a washed-up movie producer to make Hollywood's next big hit. They'll stop at nothing to get what they want, and they're looking to make a killing along the way, literally. Get Shorty, a new high-stakes dark comedy starring bridesmaids Chris O'Dowd and Ray Romano, premieres this Sunday, August 13th at 10, 9 Central, only on Epix. All right, let's do the show.
Lock the gates!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucking ears, what the fuckaholics? What's happening? I'm Marc Maron. This is my podcast, WTF. Welcome to it. What's happening? I did it. Yesterday was my 18th sober birthday. I can toot my own horn once a year, get my coin. Sarah the painter, she gave me a coin. It was nice. Got some nice congrats from people on the Twitter and on in my family and friends. 18 years without a cocktail, a puff of weed, a line of blow, however you do meth. No, nothing. Just this goddamn nicotine lozenges and this goddamn coffee, but nothing that makes my life unmanageable and destroys my health and world and ability to cope and do things. Yes, I'll take it. 18 years yesterday sober. I made it. Today's just another day. We're back to it. We're back to a day at a time. How are you people doing? I still don't feel physically great, and I do believe that it's going to come down to me. I'm probably going to have to get off of these nicotine lozenges again, and probably the coffee. And some of you have been with me long enough to know what that's like. We've been through this before. But I'm surprised at the parts of the addict brain that I still have. Let me tell you, I was working out with the lady that helps me work out today, and she's like, you just got to do it. You just got to go cold turkey. You got to just get off the nicotine and the caffeine. And I defended it like a goddamn junkie. I was like, no, I wouldn't. She goes, do you want to? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to. It was that tone. She's like, don't you want to quit those? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know how the hell I'll cope. I don't know what the hell I'll do. I don't know how I'll feel okay about life in the world. It's already hard enough without caffeine and those nicotine suckers. I don't know what the fuck. What the fuck am I going to do? I do not. Justified it. Justified my low-level self-medicating like a goddamn junkie. I'm sober from the bad shit, but this stuff is, I don't know, I think it's making me queasy. Something's making me queasy. Maybe it's just stress and fucking insanity in the goddamn world. Maybe the Trump reign of terror is starting to crush me on a neurological level. That's the plan, right? You get about a third of the country that loves you no matter what the fuck you do, no matter who the fuck you bomb or who you hate on or what chaos you unleash on the world, on the country. And then you got about the other 2/3 of people just terrified. And that just makes that 1/3 laugh and excited that maybe they'll one day get us all to leave or watch us die. Yeah, that kind of stuff. All this nuclear saber rattling. Yeah, maybe that's making me queasy. Does that sound like a reasonable reaction to that? Let's not dwell. I've 18 years sober, but that doesn't change the world. It doesn't change anything. It's just another day where I don't drink or use drugs and try to deal. Oh, let me tell you who's on the show. We got a little bit of a double header going. My old pal Jon Ronson is here. The very intelligent, witty, and smart writer. Jon Ronson has a new audio series for Audible. It's called The Butterfly Effect. The entire series is available for free at audible.com/butterfly effect. And then after him, We've got Canadian Mike MacDonald. Old comic. I don't want to call him too old. He's probably about 10 years older than me, maybe a little less, but I do have to qualify him as Canadian Mike MacDonald, not Mike MacDonald, the singer, not Mike MacDonald, the comic from Boston. Mike MacDonald, not that Mike MacDonald. I'm doing a bad impression of a guy that most of you don't know. Mike MacDonald. No, it's Canadian Mike MacDonald. He's been through the war of the road. Has some physical issues, a survivor, a real comedy life survivor who I met years ago, who has been around for a long time, and he had some health problems and stuff, and then he's doing some sort of filming thing around here, and I came over and we talked for about an hour. He's a real comedy warrior, Mike MacDonald, so he's coming up. But let's read a couple of pleasant emails. This one, I don't mean it to be a plug, but you can certainly take it that way. Waiting for the Punch is the subject line. That's the name of the WTF book coming out that you can pre-order now. I really had no intention of doing it a plug, but this is a nice email. Hi, Mark. I work at an indie bookstore in Connecticut and was able to get an advanced copy of Waiting for the Punch. I wanted to tell you that it was great. I was apprehensive at first that it was just blurbs from episodes that I've already heard, but the book is so finely curated and the excerpts are so impactful, I was barely aware I was reading from interviews I had already heard. Attempting Normal, that's my other book, had a huge impact on me and helped me through a tough divorce. And this new book comes at a time of transition for me as well and had a similar impact. I just wanted to tell you your comedy and your books have gotten me through some really dark days, and I'm forever grateful for that. Chris wrote that. Well, good, Chris. I'm glad you got a copy of that. That seems to be the way people are responding to the book, and I'm glad to help out, and I'm glad you had that reaction to the book, which you can pre-order at WTFpod.com. Just click on that book thing. Yeah, click on it. Go get it. Go get it before it comes. This is an email that I never anticipated. I didn't think this would happen. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with the feelings that this email brings out of me. It says, "Meet Baby Maron." That subject line will grab you. Like, I knew this was going to happen. Oh my God, how old is it? He or she? Where did this happen? Where are you from? How much do you want? What's happening? Not that kind of email. Hey, Mark, my name is Wally. My wife, Chanel, and I are huge fans and truly love your work. We live in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, and we listen to the podcast. We love your TV show and just recently saw you live for the first time at the Danforth Music Hall in Toronto. My wife is especially endeared to your no bullshit, brutally honest, and vulnerable approach. On to the point, though. When thinking of unique names for our second child, one of the first things my wife thought of was Maron, and it stuck. What? It wasn't a pregnancy without its struggles, and baby Maron proved to be just as difficult to deal with as you portray yourself to be at times. He wound up being nearly 2 weeks overdue, required a C-section to deliver, and at 9 pounds 2 ounces, I doubt she would have wanted to push the hulking beast out of herself anyway. She's been through a lot, and is currently, as I write this, still in hospital recovering. Both mama and baby are happy and healthy as I come home to get some sleep before having to go back to my day job as a welder in the morning. It would mean the world to me if you could just give her a shout out on the air and give her a little extra boost of morale from her favorite cranky little man. I write that lovingly. All right, Chanel, good job. Good job. I'm glad you look, you had to get it out of you somehow. And I'm glad the kid is out and he's doing all right. Is it a boy? Yes, it's a boy. I'm glad little Maron is good. I'm glad it's not mine, but only in namesake. And I'd like to welcome little Maron into the world, and best of luck with it. And I'm glad you're okay. And here he says, I've included photos of your infant namesake, and I dare say he may be just a touch cuter than you, big Maron. All the best, Wally. Oh, look at that kid. So that happened. There's a kid out there with my name. My last name is his first name. And I hope it's easier for him. coming up with that name. It's very flattering and very. I can feel no other way other than honored and I'm glad that the kid's all right. So let's move into it. So this is me talking to Jon Ronson about his new audio series called The Butterfly Effect. It's on Audible, and it's available for free at audible.com/butterfly effect. Enjoy. So I haven't seen you in a while, and apparently you're doing things.
Yeah, since I saw you last. The last time I saw you, I was in the midst of my public shaming.
Oh yeah, how did that? I imagine that book changed lives.
Yeah, there was a lot of pushback though. Like we were just talking about Randy Newman.
What was the whole name of the book again?
So You've Been Publicly Shamed.
Yeah, I read that book. I've read most of your books. You're one of the guys that I read the books. When I prepare, I read them.
Thank you.
You and Sam Quinones and Bruce Springsteen.
That's where I feel I belong. Yeah, thank you. So that was the last time I saw you.
What was the pushback?
Oh.
Did they try to shame you? Was that the backlash of writing a book about public shaming is that you were trolled and shamed?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It was a pain in the fucking neck.
What happened?
Well, because my book is it's against the sort of culture of shaming. So obviously people who enjoy shaming people.
Oh, you fucked with their hobby?
Yeah, I fucking did. It was
you buzzkilled the assholes, the troll army, the army of unfuckable hate nerds came after you.
And it was noisy.
Oh,
and it
I
lasted.
bet.
And it was relentless. It was relentless noise for about a year.
No kidding. Like, what was the angle?
Oh, every angle you can possibly think of. Because one of the people I was nice about in the book was this woman, Justine Sacco, who's like a white, who, on the surface of things is like a kind of privileged white woman.
Yeah. The one the South Africa thing?
Yeah, right. So I then became like, Jon Ronson's only nice about privileged white people.
Oh, they were accusing you of virtue signaling?
Yeah. Well, virtue signaling on both sides.
Oh, you got it from all angles.
Yeah, I got it from all.
You got the
angles.
righteous trolls and just the monster trolls.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I got the lot of them.
There's so many unimaginative people that live to start shit. That's their creativity. Is causing problems.
I was thinking a lot about consequences.
Yeah, because of working on the shame book.
Yeah. Like I asked this guy one time who'd started this onslaught against this woman, like a Gawker journalist. I said, how did it feel to have started the onslaught against her? He said it felt delicious. And
I hate the way they use that word.
Yeah. And then he paused and said, but I'm sure she's fine now. Yeah. And I happen to know that, she was depressed and she wasn't leaving her house and, she was probably having suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
But for cognitive dissonance reasons, you have to think that they're fine. You don't want to think there's consequences because, you're a nice person, yet you've just destroyed somebody's life. So to make that work inside your head, you have to pretend that they're fine.
Or you have enough kind of sociopathic detachment to think that it just happens online and that's it. It's like a person who rages. When they're done yelling, they're like, "Are we good?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about like how, for the internet to work, you have to sort of not think about the consequences of your actions. And I thought, where else does that exist on the internet? And the place where I thought it really existed is porn. So a few things happened. Could I tell you these things that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. For my shamed book.
You went on a porn set?
Yeah, I went on a porn set.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was great. I'm actually I'm briefly in a porn film called Public Disgrace because it was my first ever porn set and I wanted to see what was happening. So I kind of leaned in.
Yeah.
This was a woman was getting her genitals electrocuted. And I thought...
For real?
For real, yeah, because in a break from the filming, everybody thought, well, this can't be real, because it was set in a bar in the valley.
Yeah.
And the conceit was that Princess Donna, the porn star, was pulling in this woman called Jodie Taylor, and would then electrocute her genitals in front of everybody in the bar. So during a break...
What kind of porn is this?
Well, it's weird porn. It's humiliation porn.
Okay.
And so everybody was like testing the electrocution machine during a break, and it really was giving electric shocks. It was real. So I kind of peered in. I was like, so somewhere in a film called Public Disgrace, there's like a tweedy gentleman holding a notepad, like peering in. Like, I'm just hoping that for somebody out there, that's a nice
promo for that film.
I remember my big memory of that night. I have two memories of that night.
Yeah.
One is that, like, it started late. It started like 10:30, and I was still on New York time. So
kind of
like
hazy.
Yeah. So like 1 a.m., I was just thinking, please ejaculate so I can just go home. And then I thought, God, I'm like thousands of women before me. Please ejaculate so I can go to sleep.
Let me just get closure on this.
Yeah.
Some messy closure on this situation. I'm tired.
And my other memory was that when I was meeting Princess Donna, so I was staying that night at this fancy Los Angeles hotel, the Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
So I was in my room, and the guy, the receptionist, phoned up and said, "Your guest is waiting for you downstairs."
Yeah.
So I went downstairs. And everybody else in the lobby was dressed like exactly like I'm dressed now, in like kind of James Pearce grey hoodies.
Celebrity hiding.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like a celebrity burqa, like a grey hoodie, which I just sort of hide underneath. And
so it makes everybody go, is that, I don't know, is it? Yeah, yeah.
But except for Princess Donna, who was dressed like this kind of great mad peacock.
Yeah.
She looked like so otherworldly.
Hollywood.
Yeah, and I wore porn, and I walked towards her, really interested in it, like she was interesting to me. And
peacocks are interesting.
Yeah, so especially in the context of grey sweatpants.
Yeah.
So I looked around, and I noticed the receptionist, as I was walking towards her, and the receptionist was looking at her.
Uh-huh.
And the look, he didn't realise anybody was looking at him, looking at her. And the look on his face was one of contempt. Like disgust. And it made me think, whoa, it made me think that some people are only comfortable with porn people when they're on their computers and not in their vicinity.
Sure.
And so I became curious, like after my little mini porn experience.
Well, do you think he knew she was a porn person?
I think he knew she was some kind of sex worker. You know what, even if...
It's weird, though, because that street, there, at a different era, was just like a parade of that. When I was at the Comedy Store in the late 80s, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I could have misread. It's possible that I misread the situation. And
he probably just was. He thought she was being a little bit much for the chateau.
And funnily enough, I brought this up with another porn star a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And she took the side of the receptionist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck her.
Well, Ben basically said like, well, she should have dressed more demurely.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I might have misread the situation, but it did make me curious about the lives of porn people, and so I started like reading their blogs and so on, and like what were their concerns, and what I realised was that a lot of porn people were concerned about the very same, very specific thing, and it was a man called Fabian.
Yeah.
And I became really interested in Fabian.
What does that mean?
Fabian's a guy called Fabian Tillman.
Yeah.
And he's a Brussels entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
And when he was a teenager, he had an idea. And the idea was basically to get rich from giving the world free porn, online porn.
Oh.
So he didn't invent porn.
I am personally grateful.
Right. Well, you and 75 million other people every day.
The weird thing that, just I know I'm getting ahead of you, but that what it enables you to do is not invest as much time. Internet porn, free porn enables you to use it as a drug, which is what it is. Like, it's like, I got 6 minutes, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to invest in a story. You don't really have to fast forward. There's plenty available. Yeah. Like, I'm not proud of it. I'm not saying I'm compulsive about it, but it's nice knowing it's there, right?
Right. Well, it's certainly taken off in a big way.
The business itself, whether it's free porn or not, must be a massive business still for somebody. And because like there's literally, not unlike troll culture or social networking, is that the globe, and America in particular, has become completely pornified and almost embraces it. That coming out of the 80s where there was a commission put together to fight it, that now it's sort of like it's just matter of fact. How does that happen? And to me, it must be about money.
Yeah, well, I can answer all of those questions. I'm now an expert at Pornhub economics.
Yeah.
So Fabian, by the way, got so rich from owning Pornhub and basically buying up the entire San Fernando Valley, pretty much. Like at one point in about 2012, 80% of everybody in the world who watched porn was watching it on one of Fabian's sites.
But then doesn't the model become more of a YouTube model for performers?
Well, eventually it sort of turned into that. But the foundation, I should explain, by the way, Mark, that all of this is I've just made this audio series called The Butterfly Effect.
Yeah.
And the flap of the butterfly's wings is Fabian giving the world free porn. Oh. And the entire series is about the consequences. And it goes out and out and out. So to the strangest places.
Yeah.
Like our sort of challenge to ourselves is if you follow consequence through to consequence, like from Fabian giving the world free porn, where the fuck are you going to end up? And you end up with a man in Norway having his expensive stamp collection destroyed by 3 women. So that's like one of the places we end up by chasing this butterfly effect. But let me tell you about...
That's one of those weird things where it's a spoiler, but it's so compelling and you cannot figure out the story.
How the fuck do you get from one to the other?
Right.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So Fabian bought Pornhub when it was like a fledgling company owned by these guys up in Montreal. And he wanted to expand. Like, that wasn't enough for him. So he got a bank loan to expand. Now, one real irony, like the foundation of Pornhub was pirated porn. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't upload pirated porn themselves, but they kind of allowed a space for users, for
pirated,
fans.
Meaning not original?
Stolen.
Yeah.
So, some... company would make a porn film, and then the day it's released on DVD, somebody would just upload it onto Pornhub, and it would stay on Pornhub, but everybody would watch it for free.
Right.
So all the mom and pop porn production companies would have to close down. Porn stars would have to go into like escorting to pay the rent, and everybody was watching their porn for free on Pornhub, pirated. Now, if anybody said to Pornhub, "Can you take down this porn belongs to us and it's illegally uploaded?" They'd go, "Oh, sorry, we'll take it down," and they'd take it down.
Right.
But by then, like, all the porn in the world was like on Pornhub for free. So, it was like trying to cut down a forest with a butter knife.
It's a lot like YouTube. Yeah.
So Fabian wanted a bank loan to help him expand.
A band clone?
A bank loan.
Bank loan.
Yeah,
okay.
like a loan from
I thought you were talking some tech term that I didn't know. Bank loan.
Yeah, bank loan.
Got it.
Now, one irony in all of this is that if you're a woman in porn, if you're a porn performer, and you go to a bank manager and ask for like a checking account, they might turn you down because it's like you're deemed disreputable.
Yeah.
So, but Fabian, he wasn't like a porn performer, he was a tech entrepreneur. So he got a $362 million loan to build an empire based in part on the handling of those women's stolen porn.
Yeah.
So with this loan, he bought up loads of like porn production companies in LA. And within a year, he owned like...
all of it.
Yeah, he owned all of it for all intent. I mean, not all of it, but he owned a shit.
So it was no longer the quaint family business it once was.
No.
Like, it's sort of like the transition from, in Boogie Nights, that shift from, the theaters to the video.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, like, it was also documented a bit in the Tales from Times Square when it moved out of the theaters into the quarter slot, into the coin-operated booths. There's been several different evolutions of it. And I imagine David Simon's new series is going to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That was like Times Square. But what's happening now is, the sort of porn DVD culture turned into like free porn on Pornhub. And I was really interested in the consequences. Like, no one who worked up at Pornhub HQ ever went on a porn set.
Right, but like, so initially you were interested in personal consequences, or it seems like this thing kind of came around the side for you, it seemed like what you were looking for was something shame-based, and then it kind of became this other thing.
Well, consequence-based.
Consequence.
Like to eat the meat, you need to ignore the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And I think everybody was watching porn for free on Pornhub, and nobody was thinking about the consequences. And I wasn't, I didn't know anything about it. I had no idea what impact it was having on people. So I just became curious for that reason. And so I discovered, like, you can imagine, like, some of the consequences are what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Like, you know, porn women having to take up escorting, for instance. But then, as we dug and dug and dug, we found these other consequences which are kind of mind-blowing.
Like?
Well, one of my favourites is, like, from the ashes of the old-style porn business, this new phoenix is rising, and it's the world of bespoke porn.
Bespoke.
Yeah. So, like, if you have a porn film in mind that just doesn't exist anywhere in the world, you can get, like, a team of professional porn people to make a porn film just for you.
Oh, yeah.
But the bespoke porn world is unexpectedly...
You like this one. You like the creativity of it.
Well, it's like such an insight into people's inner lives, because you wouldn't believe some of these bespoke porn films that are being made. So these
of course I would. I mean, you just told me one about a woman who gets her genitals electrocuted, and that was mainstream.
Yeah, that's mainstream. This one is a company... Okay, so one porn film that we found, one bespoke porn film, was a man in Norway. Yeah. I alluded to this earlier. A man in Norway.
Same guy?
Yeah, he spent his life amassing an incredibly valuable book of stamps.
Yeah. And
his bespoke porn film, just for him, was to pay porn performers in the San Fernando Valley to destroy his stamp collection. And by throwing it into the fire while chanting, "Burn, burn."
So there's the sexual element is subverted somehow. I mean, that's the guy's not quite submissive, but
he definitely got sexual pleasure from seeing this stamp collection, which he clearly...
A lifelong obsession.
Yeah, which he regretted. I think he feels like he made a mistake spending...
Well, at least he's got the film of it.
Yeah, 10 films. He's he's commissioned 10.
How much does it cost to commission something like that? To have some women, you know, naked women come over and burn my garage down. What would that cost?
Well, you need a fire marshal, so that's a little bit more. But, you know, I like $10,000, I reckon.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I know some porn performers, and maybe, you know, they maybe cut me a deal.
They'll give you a deal. Not long ago, we had one bespoke porn producer tell us that a man had just emailed them and said he was requesting a video, and his video was for a porn performer to sit cross-legged on the floor, fully clothed, and saying to the camera, "You are loved. Things may be bad now, but they won't always be, and suicide is not the answer."
Like a known porn performer.
Well, I think in that particular case, like, they got to choose their own.
That's pretty touching. And it kind of, it's almost worthy of museum work.
Yeah.
Video.
Yeah.
It's an art piece.
It is an art piece. Well, they wrote back to him and said, like, this really moved them because obviously, well, it would. And so they wrote back to him and said, well, look, we can shoot this really soon.
It was pressing.
Like, before you kill yourself. Yeah, right. And he didn't write back to them.
Oh.
So then it was like, what do we do? So they made it for him anyway. They paid the porn performer and made it for him anyway and sent it to him.
And
they haven't heard back. The video is basically this woman sitting on the floor in a house in the valley. It's like this white mansion saying, you know, basically, please don't kill yourself. I mean, I think it's a beautiful video. The one error I could possibly say is that, like, they chose this kind of white mansion. It looks like heaven from a movie. So it's maybe not the best idea to make a bespoke porn film in which you're kind of convincing somebody to not kill themselves on a set that basically looks like heaven from an 80s film. But she's sort of, she's sitting cross-legged on the floor and she's saying, you know, lots of people love you. I love you. I have thought about dying myself in the past, but, you know, I've pulled myself back from that, and, you know, please don't do it, you know, please stick with us. And then she blows a kiss at the camera. And they sent the video to this guy, and who knows?
Well, John, I'm not disappointed in your reporting. What do you mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, I guess we could track the guy down.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You're not going to do follow-up? You're just going to end on the horrible, sad, existentially sort of provocative
possibility that he hasn't got back to them because he's dead, or hasn't got back to them because actually he just wanted to get off on a video of a woman telling him.
But where's the follow-through, Ronson? I don't like it.
Isn't the not knowing in itself.
There's poetry in that, but you're kind of half a reporter.
All right, I'll fucking find out.
That's right, you find out. You better find out on the next bunch of butterfly effects, or is this it?
No, there might be more.
Before we get off that other topic, the thing is that if you did your due diligence as a reporter, either end of that story is not going to diminish what happened there. You're just going to have to handle the worst of it.
Yeah.
But if it did pull him back, or the guy does become interested, the worst that could happen is the dude's just sort of like, I just want to see if they do it. That's the worst that could happen. Any other outcome is another good story.
Yeah. Even that story's a good story.
I got emotional and now I'm mad at you.
Right. Well, that story's a good story because he massively moved these porn people. As they were making the video for him, they were themselves crying because obviously it was kind of triggering stuff from their own lives.
A lot of them are very sensitive people.
Yeah.
The women that I know.
Oh, yeah, no question. So even if this guy was just fucking with them.
Yeah.
Mark, have you got tears in your eyes?
I did before. They went away.
Right.
The fact that you don't know the guy.
Yeah.
You don't know what happened.
No, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, I get choked up. I'd get choked up a lot in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What are you sorry about?
I'm sorry.
I think it's a powerful bit of business.
Yeah.
Now I got to listen to it.
Yeah.
I should have done that before I talked to you, but it's better this way. Sounds like a very compelling series there, John.
Oh, Mark, you wouldn't believe.
Well, I could talk about porn for a while. I've got my own ideas. The accessibility of it has, and the fact that porn addiction is a very real thing, that, you are creating some sort of psychologically chemical change in your brain.
Oh, no
question. It's absolutely a compulsion. I know guys that are lost in it, man.
Yeah, and erectile dysfunction rates have shot through the
Of course,
roof
because a therapist of mine put it we were talking about. He's also been a guest on the show. That when you are a compulsive masturbator, your primary sexual partner is yourself.
Yeah.
So and you have a lot of control in that situation.
Yeah.
It's neutering a generation of men.
Yeah. My producer, Lena, met a sex doll manufacturer at the AVN, the Adult Industry Expo, and he said, his business is going through the roof since free streaming porn, because it's so much harder. If you watch porn constantly on, tube sites, it's much harder for you to have sex with an actual human.
But you don't get outside. You don't know how to talk. You don't know how to get there.
So more and more people are buying
so
sex
now
dolls.
It's like a pseudo-necrophilia culture.
Yeah, or just, just compliance and perfection.
You're talking about, like a emotionless doll that has a compelling vaginal feature and oral feature is perfection?
Or it looks like, I met this guy in Louisiana who, he's probably in his 50s now. When he was in his late teens, he was desperately in love with this girl called Darlene, and they were going to get married, and he loved Darlene more than anything in the world. And then one day Darlene dumped him, just left him and refused to explain why, and it broke his heart. And cut to 40 years later, a friend of his says, go on this website, and he finds a sex doll that is identical looking to Darlene.
Oh.
So he buys her. And
it's a love story.
He said that she's better than Darlene because, when he shared a bed with Darlene, he'd wake up in the middle of the night and Darlene was right the other side of the bed.
Yeah,
which was a clue to the fact that their relationship was
right.
Whereas the sex doll, he wakes up in the middle of the night and she's draped around him.
Yeah, or on the floor, and then he just pulls her back into the bed.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very sweet.
Isn't it?
It sounds like a compelling bit of business that I'm not sure the arc of it is an indication of anything good.
No, it's not, right? It's really not. The arc of it is basically tech people are taking over the world. Going back to Fabian, one of Fabian's employees said to me, don't think of me as a porn person. I'm not a piece of garbage peddling smut. I'm a tech person. Well,
this is the same type of detachment that enables a troll to not think they ruined someone's life.
Exactly. Tech people taking over the world. No one really cares because they're giving us what we want, which is free porn on the internet.
It's all the revenge of the nerds. We had no idea it would be apocalyptic.
Exactly. That's the heart of the story. It's tech nerds taking over our lives. We don't care. the consequences are boundless.
How does the economic model work now for like YouPorn or Pornhub or whatever the other ones are called? Yeah. How are they making the money?
Well, you're right that there's like, you can set up a page on Pornhub where you can like, sell your own stuff. But as Mike Quasar said to me, this old style director said to me the other day, like this incredibly famous porn actor called Janice Griffiths.
Yeah.
Said to him the other day, how can you be anti-Pornhub? Like my Pornhub page on, maybe like $3,000 last month.
Yeah.
And she's like one of the most successful current porn stars. And Mike said to her, like, 20 years ago, you'd have made like 30 grand. So they don't know, like, they don't know that they're part of this business that's just, that's just eating away at the kind of money that they used to make.
This is all very specific to who you talk to and to, this business model. But I mean, if you go on to any of these sites, you're like, there's plenty of people making fuck movies. There's no short, to the point where I'm like, I don't know what my neighbor's doing right now.
Yeah, which by the way is part of the problem, because you've got like this massive influx of women in the valley. Like in the old days, in the 90s, there was a kind of, if you wanted to get into porn, you were like Bonnie and Clyde. There was a sort of outlaw status, but
sure,
now
you needed a doctor to give you the pills for whenever you get manageable sexually transmitted diseases, and it was part of the liability of the work.
Right, but now the valley is full of this kind of massive influx of 18-year-old girls who grew up on Pornhub, think that looks like fun and an easy way of making money.
People who are detached from the input. Well, that's an interesting sort of idea. Wilhelm Reich had, when he kind of hot-rodded Freud's ideas about sexual repression and neuroticism, pictured a world where, sexuality would be completely untethered.
Right, and destigmatized.
From its Victorian constraints, and that it would make for a better world.
Yeah, and you know what? That world is kind of starting to happen, and that's the plus side, I would say. I'm with Reich on this. That's the upside of it. The downside, though, is that, thousands of young 18-year-old girls arrive in the valley without feeling any stigma about porn, which is obviously
fucking
good.
For money.
Yeah, they work for a month. And then nobody needs to employ them anymore because there's another bunch of girls getting off the bus. So the downside is that
they got to enter the workforce with Pornhub videos on their resume.
Yeah, and yes, and they come here with all those hopes and dreams, and they get a month of work, and then they're fucked.
Well, I mean, but do you really want to call them hopes and dreams? I mean, the thing is that it's still a very male-dominated business, and there's a lot of these 18-year-old girls that I don't know they necessarily really know what they're getting into, and they get abused and fucked up and strung out. And everyone's got free will, but I mean, we are talking 18. It's legal, but it's still young.
Well, my producer Lee and I, we embedded ourselves in the side of the porn industry in the valley where there's much less exploitation, where the sets are kind of respectful and the women earn good money. So we didn't want to go to the sort of Hot Girls Wanted sort of sleazy side of the industry.
Again, due diligence, Ronson. I'm glad you've got a balanced bit of.
Because I wanted our series to be about the tech takeover of the porn industry. Okay. I didn't want it to be about the little dark corners of the industry.
Well, now you've opened up a can of worms, though, man.
No, I stand by that because I never make stories about goodies and baddies, but in this story, if anybody's a baddie, it's the faraway tech entrepreneurs who fucked everything up from afar. So we just wanted to concentrate on that particular story.
Okay,
I think
board.
that's cool. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be.
I'm fine with it. I just it is something that I don't know has really been the evolution of porn and the nature of it in our own sort of kind of conflicted feelings about sex workers in general or how they're characterized. I got an email recently that I sort of condescend, in humor about, the nature of strippers or hookers or how they're sort of characterize. And I know sex workers, and I'm certainly, accept them and the work. And I have a different. I still do jokes sometimes, but I don't. I understand the business and that there is respect involved there, but it is still a fairly unexplored, notion. The state of the contemporary porn industry.
Totally. That's why, I really wanted to make that decision to not follow in the footsteps of films like Hot Girls Wanted, which are about the sort of, seedier side of the
I think
industry.
you're right. It seems like you're writing a line. I like it. And
Yeah.
I like your work, and I was just pushing back a little bit. But I should find out what happened to that guy.
I will.
Thanks, man. There you go. Sounds like a compelling bit of business. I always like talking to Jon Ronson. So, look, Mike MacDonald here. Like, a lot of you may not know him, but I've known him, and he's been around for a long time. I remember seeing him on a very early, I think it might have been a Young Comedian special. I'll talk to him about that. But he was one of these guys that, was sort of on the periphery of American comedy a bit, and he ran with some of the hardcore dudes that I looked up to and I got tangled up with. And, you get to a certain age in this business where if somebody survives and they're still at it, you're like, good for you, man. You're also, if somebody survives and they got out, you're also like, oh, good for you. What a fucking relief that would be if you can live with yourself. But Mike's not one of those guys. He's the other guy. He's still in it. He's still doing it. He's persevered through some serious health issues. And, I'm glad I got to talk to him because I was afraid he was going to die, and he didn't, and he's doing all right. This is me and Canadian Mike MacDonald. Now, am I wrong in remembering that you were once referred to as the doctor? Was that you?
No, not the doctor.
Maybe I'm making it up. I don't know why I would have. But at some point, I remember talking about Sam, about Kennison,
right,
coming up to Canada, and finding you. Did Sam Kennison call you the doctor?
I believe on that night, yes, because I was, he had never shot heroin before.
Oh.
So
you were the guy?
I had everything ready and stuff, and knowing that, you know, the first time you do it, and a lot of people, for every time they do it, they get sick,
throw up,
and then they get high.
Yeah.
So knowing that he was like that, as soon as I hit him up, undid the band, and when the sensation got up to about his neck, I grabbed him and I said, "One more soul, and I get mine back." And I threw him towards the ground. He's going, "Oh, you bastard! Oh, you son of a bitch, MacDonald!"
And then he went out.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Those are. See, we're laughing about that, but I think the most
heroin addiction. Funny.
Most mortals would be like, "What the fuck are they laughing at?"
Yeah, exactly.
Those monsters.
I'm glad those days are over. I think when I hit 30, I decided to quit everything.
Was it 30?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it in a long time. And wait, you're not living in Canada though, are you?
I had to virtually go back. I was living in Glendale and I was fine and everything was great, but then I got sick. And
what was the sickness? What is the sickness?
Liver disease.
And now you're shooting a documentary now?
Yeah.
And is it my understanding, I don't know how to put it bluntly, that time is short? Or I was pitched this as like he could go any second.
Yeah. Well, there's always a chance you can go any second. But, this is more of I'm finally back to where I was before I got sick.
Oh, really? So you're doing good?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
thank God.
Back on the road, back doing my act full time, and stuff.
Oh my God, I'm so relieved because like what I was what I had misunderstood the documentary to be was like he's got days, maybe weeks to live.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, they're hoping because that would be the big finale to the documentary, and then he died.
He didn't make it.
They're counting on it.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing about you is I don't know how many people know exactly who you are, but you've been doing comedy for as long as I can remember watching comedy, because I remember the first time I saw you Like it was on like a Catch a Rising Star Young Comedians thing, maybe?
Yeah.
And at that time, though, right, but at that time you're like, these the new wave come.
Yeah. The punk comedian.
Yeah, but like you were doing...
He's edgy.
Yeah, well, you were doing weird bits,
Yeah.
like abstract bits.
Yeah. It was weird.
That was the angle?
Yeah.
At the time?
I just thought, anything that's funny. And there was a lot of drug-fueled stuff.
But then, like, I saw you years later, I think I saw you at Catch a Rising Star when I was in Boston, but then I saw you years later, and you were just this angry, sweaty mess. You're like, I'm like, what happened to the new wave guy? You're like, oh, fuck that. Fuck this. Right? Yeah. The evolution, the bitterness had taken hold.
Yeah. That was always my thing that attracted me to a lot of comedians when I was a kid. It was the yelling and stuff, because my father would yell, and I always thought it was great that you could laugh at yelling as opposed to being afraid of it.
Devastated by it. So where did you grow up, though?
In a number of places, because my dad was in the Air Force. So
in the Canadian Air Force?
Yeah, every 2-3 years we moved somewhere else.
But, like, tell me some places in Canada, because I don't know about Canada. I'm thinking about living there soon.
Yeah, Nova Scotia at one point, Greenland.
You were in Greenland?
Yeah. And
do you remember it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My favorite posting, he was in Ramstein, Germany, which was NATO headquarters at the time, 1964 to 69, which was a great time to be there because of the music alone.
Sure. You were like what? And you're like 13? Or
I was 9, 1964 when I got there. And I remember them taking me on vacation. And we were in Amsterdam, and there's a little coffee house, and it said Jimi Hendrix live tonight. And I went, oh, my God.
Really?
And that's when I realized, if I was 18, I'd be having the time of my life. But I'm 12, and I have to go with my parents to the Ice Capades. It's like, oh, God. I never forgave them for that. I could have seen Hendrix.
And you didn't.
And I missed them.
God damn it. But you were into music like that at that age?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have an older brother?
No, that's the thing. I mean, a Jewish kid in my grade 5 class turned me on to Jimi Hendrix. Listen to this, Purple Haze, and I went, "Oh my God, that's so different than the Beatles and everything else that we were listening to." And, I flipped out on it.
So that was in Germany and Greenland. Like, is it pretty?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's great.
And they have a base there? That's not Canadian territory, though, is it?
No,
I mean... its own place?
Well, they used to have more stuff there in the past, but now they don't. I don't think so.
So when do you have brothers or sisters?
2 younger brothers, yeah.
How they doing?
They're doing okay. One's a lounge singer. He goes by Johnny Vegas, which is weird.
Oh, I know him. I saw him in London.
Yeah.
That's your brother?
No, there's a bunch. There's a Johnny Vegas in every country in the world.
I was going to say, that guy didn't look like...
He's the Canadian one.
He's the Canadian Johnny Vegas?
Yeah, he's the Canadian
So they do a
Johnny.
kind of like disrupted, chaotic lounge act?
Yeah.
And what's the other one do? Did the other one end up out of show business?
I'm not sure anymore.
You don't know what the other brother does?
The other. Oh, I thought you meant the other Johnny Vegas, because I saw him a long time ago in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
but
right. That's where I saw him.
Since.
Right.
Yeah.
That might have been where I saw you. Was that like 2006 or something?
Yeah, it could have been around there. Yeah.
What's the other brother do?
My other brother, he's a drummer in a band.
Y'all ended up in show business.
Yeah, it was weird.
What, is he in a big band like Rush? Is he Neil Peart?
No, he'd be more like walking into Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, that kind of band.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But they're Canadian.
Yeah, basically.
Do they have a interesting, just short of a good name, Canadian band name?
Yeah, it's called the Awesome Brothers. Which is like, oh well.
Someone doesn't want to make money.
I don't think any of the three of us were any good at titles.
So, what rank was your dad? Was he like a big shot, or?
No, he was what you call a warrant officer. It was like the one step before becoming an actual officer.
Yeah.
And so, like people would ask me, did he fly a plane? No, he flew a desk.
But he's one of the best desk pilots.
He was nice and safe
in
behind
the Canadian
desk.
Air Force. And what did your mom do? Just deal with you guys?
She was a traditional stay-at-home mom and stuff for a long time, and then she started working as a medical receptionist in a hospital.
So where did it start leveling off, though? Because I have no sense. Like, I think you're the first guy of your generation, and you were like, you were part of the, I think the that 80s stand-up boom where everyone could make a buck.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Back in those days, you could make, $4,000 a week without having a sitcom. It was amazing.
Because there were so many clubs opening up.
It was great.
And you were sort of a known guy up in Canada.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, to a point, yeah.
Well, like, what was the Canadian scene, though? Like, when you grew up, where'd you grow up mostly? Like, once you got old enough to start giving a shit about things?
I started high school in Ottawa, which was my dad's last posting, and we stayed there for a long time. And that's where I started doing stand-up. And then I moved to Toronto, and then Toronto to L.A.
What's the scene like, though? Like, how old were you when you started?
I think it was 22.
Really?
22, 23.
Did you go to college?
No. No. I barely made it through the 10 years in high school, but no college or anything. I had a series of odd jobs before I decided to become a comedian. And I actually thought at one point it was going to be like I played the drums, and I thought music was going to be the ticket.
Yeah, sure.
But then when I realized that in comedy I didn't have to have 4 other people agreeing with everything I said, I could do it myself. So the comedy sort of took over.
But at that time, what were the odd jobs? Like what were you?
Well, at one point, I was a dance instructor for Fred Astaire.
Stop it!
Dance Studios.
Come on!
It was during the disco phase, and we dance all day, and then we dance all night, and I was making like $5,000 a week doing.
So you knew the disco dances?
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird time, And then when the comedy started, I actually started at what turned into the punk club scene in Ottawa. And there was an audience that you learn the possibilities of good editing.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't like something, they'd let you know.
So we're talking like what year? Like you're 22 and what year?
It was 1978.
So like these punk rock clubs, were they real punk rock clubs or were they?
Well, there was only one, and it was definitely the punk scene. It was, groups like Teenage Head from Canada. I don't know if you heard it. They were like our version of the Ramones.
Oh, yeah?
And they were like really good. I really enjoyed seeing a lot of the band. I was really into the music still, obviously, but the comedy thing just took off.
Like, but for you to choose that club over, like, why that place? Like, were there comedy? You were in Toronto at this point?
Yeah, well, no, I was in Ottawa still.
Was there Yuck Yucks there yet or anything?
No, Yuck Yucks would come in about 2.5 years later.
So there was nothing?
No, there was no official comedy club whatsoever.
Well, what compelled you? Who did you see that made you think that?
It was a friend of mine was recording local bands and stuff, and he called me in to do something comedy because he had heard this album called Derek and Clive Live.
Yeah.
With Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
Oh, yeah, right.
And they got really drunk and they turned on the tapes and they got all this stuff. And some of it was okay. Like, I still remember the joke about, what's the worst job you've ever had? Well, I used to pick lobsters out of Jane Mansfield's bum. Stuff like that. So my friend,
that's the one that sticks.
Yeah. So my friend who had the studio in his basement, and I'd been in the band with him before, he said, well, why don't we do something with comedy too? But instead of alcohol, we'll get really high.
Yeah.
And boy, we recorded like 18 hours of tapes that if they heard them now even, I would have to leave on the next shuttle. I couldn't stay on the planet if they heard, like I see what people are getting in trouble now and I go, no, that's nothing compared to these tapes. I mean, oh my God.
What were you guys doing?
We went anywhere. And on the top it off, we had, the engineer guy, his name was Carl Schultz, and he was German, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's the same way that Monty Python used to make fun of Belgians.
Yeah.
My go-to was German.
Sure.
I used to just do the Nazi stuff to death, and just
he
would always make him frustrated. Stop making jokes about you got to get some more Jews in the train. It's like all that stuff.
Man.
We just hammering this
for
guy.
Hours.
Yeah, for hours, and it was just a bunch of stuff on tape that we should never release. Ever.
Oh, you should. But, just put a box set together. So it was inspired by like hearing records and
yeah, Derek Clive, and of course the comedy albums I had in high school and stuff. I remember the first one that really made a big impact was Richard Pryor's "Was It Something I Said?" I thought that was like a brilliant album, and that's the album that my father came in and said, "What the hell are you listening to?"
Right,
because he heard the N-word really loud one day. And so it was like I had to hide his records, and it was just like the Little Richard Pat Boone thing, where I had to hide the black records. My dad couldn't hear them.
Was he real? That was a real conservative dude.
Yeah, a little bit on that. He just thought it was shocking that I would listen to anything. Somebody saying the N-word over and over. Was he uncalled for?
Was he a nice guy? You get along with that guy?
It was well, actually, in his family, he was the one that broke the mold and left. And some people in his family were racist. You know? So he was the one that had a more worldview. But
racist Canadians.
Yeah, he didn't want to hear me listening to somebody yelling out the N-word loudly.
I have such a stilted or fucked up, idea of what's up in Canada. I mean, was it that diverse a culture to where racism would be?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think when we were stationed in Halifax, I noticed racism for the first time in Canada.
Yeah,
and it was like one black student in the entire school,
right?
And he got into a lot of trouble and a lot of stuff. So
the one guy.
But the main thing at the time, you're talking 1962, 63. It was mainly Catholics against Protestants. I mean,
right. That's what I thought. And French people against non-French people.
Well, yeah,
right.
That's always been there. Too.
Catholic against Protestant. So it was like
that was weird. Like my mother would tell me to go to the local store to get some milk and stuff. And I'd have to leave the base to go to the store. And on the way to the store, people would grab me and go, "What are you, Catholic?" And then I'd try to guess right.
Yeah. What were you, Catholic?
Protestant. But I never liked religion to begin with. But I always tried to say the right answer when they asked me. I'd look, the guy's got a cross. Catholic. I'm Catholic. All right, get some milk and get out of here.
So you're doing comedy in punk clubs. And that's sort of where you begin to get that style, which was because for me, you presented yourself that way. But I remember in that special, you were wearing a striped shirt, I think. Is that possible?
Well, it was a multicolored shirt. It was like the bit was the rock star bit with a tennis racket. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So you did
kid pretending to be
some
a rock
mild
star
prop
in his
usage.
Room.
Yeah. And but it was definitely sort of surreal. Not a lot of you didn't get the sense of character that you have now.
Yeah, it was totally different. I mean, I look back and I go, "What the hell was I thinking?" And it was totally different back then. But at the beginning, I think primarily the influence was Steve Martin at the beginning, and then when the Richard Pryor, the first concert film came out, I remember seeing that 3-4 times a day.
Was that like 79 or something?
Yeah, watching it and then going on at night, and that was a big influence.
So after you do the punk clubs, when do you start? Where do you start doing more venues that aren't comedy clubs?
I started going all the local, like the folk bars, the heavy metal bars. I played in all kinds of music.
So that's sort of
venues.
That makes sense. So you had to be you had to grab them pretty quickly.
Yeah, you had to be. But it was also the luxury back then. 1979 in Ottawa, most people had never seen live comedy at all.
Right.
So it was kind of a treat, and I had tapes and music and all this stuff. It was like more
big show,
more performance art. Kind of, without the attitude.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. But they just thought it was thrilling to see it live anywhere, and then finally, the people from Yuck Yucks Toronto, they came down to visit because they want to see who's this kid making noise in Ottawa. And I brought them to the punk club where I started.
Who's that, Breslin?
Yeah, Breslin and another comic by the name of Steve Brender. And I remember them sitting there watching the punk crowd, bouncing around, all this, Clash playing really loud in the background. And they turned to me and they said, "You do comedy here?" And I went, "Oh yeah, every week. It's great. They love me here." Okay, this is different.
And did they book you?
Oh yeah, and then it was a line in the sand because when I got to Toronto, there was a whole group of comedians, not a big group, like 30 comedians.
Who were they?
Like Howie Mandel came out.
Was he one of the guys?
Oh yeah, he was like the biggest star at the time, and then Jim Carrey jumped in later on. But Howie was the first big breakthrough.
But who were the other core guys there? Like when you were there that you remember?
There's a bunch of people that you wouldn't recognize the names.
Well, let's give them some love. Give a few of them some love. Are they still at it?
Very few. Like most of them are behind the scenes now. I mean, there's still a couple. Like I think Steve Brender still does it. Evan Carter, and there's a couple of guys that still do stand up. But for the most part, most of them are either behind the scenes or they dropped out. But it's also a thing too that the problem with Canada is they have that mentality of, socialized medicine is okay, but socialized entertainment where they go to you, well, you've already had your turn. What do you mean I've already had my turn?
Oh, right.
What do you mean I can't do another special? The last, you know what I mean? Like, I had 3 specials up there on CBC and 3 down here on Showtime, and I thought, if I was just in the States doing it for a network here, they would have a piece of paper that made me sign not to go anywhere else.
For a year, anyways.
But for Canada, their attitude was like, okay, you've had 3, you've had your turn.
Come back when your body changes.
I go, wait a minute, that's a crazy attitude.
And that's still I wonder if it's still that way.
Yeah, a little bit for a lot of us. I mean, it is certainly for me. They consider me, having had the turn.
So when you get down to Toronto, when you're doing Yucks and you're part of the crew of guys, and now did he open up all those clubs across Canada at once?
Yeah, so, I mean, I actually opened up, in the early days, I opened up the majority of them. I was the first act to play there. And then after me, of course, you had people like Norm MacDonald and Jeremy Hotz and stuff. You know, so they brought up the second wave. And,
do they all look at you as like one of the granddaddies of modern Canadian comedy?
A little bit, it was a little like having an older brother 1 grade ahead kind of deal. But
so when does the drug start?
Immediately, as soon as I got to Toronto, hey, what's this? Hey, what's this? And all of a sudden you get offered like all these drugs, and I couldn't believe it. And Toronto was like, Toronto always tried to be like New York, so we had a little bit of
all the stuff coming up,
all the debauchery.
And
then, being able to come down to L.A., like the only reason we got down to L.A. was Evening at the Improv was co-produced with a Canadian company, and one of the stipulations was each show had to have 1 Canadian act. So,
is that true at the beginning?
So that was our reason to be in the States, and our first U.S. television exposure.
What was that, in the early 80s, mid-80s? When did that start?
Early,
right? Because I remember doing it in '89, and I think it was already about done when they were shooting them down at that Westwood Improv.
Yeah,
like the huge one where they treated the TV show like just another night.
Yeah,
like I was doing my first TV appearance, and like I think Spade was there, and he's like, "Nah, I've done a few of these," and like it was just like no big deal, and to me it was like the biggest deal.
Yeah, it towards the end of the '80s, it really got saturated on TV. There were so many stand-up shows that it had to die down a little bit.
I did my first appearances were in '89.
Yeah. But it was nice. But coming out to, L.A. and meeting people like Sam Kinison and stuff, there was an introduction to do the debauchery down here, which was on a higher level, obviously, because you had more years to practice.
More years to practice and more, I would imagine.
Started in the 20s here, apparently. If you read some of the Fatty Arbuckle, what the hell happened?
Oh, it goes way back.
Way back.
The documented debauchery. We don't know about the undocumented debauchery, except for the parties we were at. But so you're a big act in Canada.
I'm known to a certain amount of people. Like when people ask me if I tour, I go, like Lady Gaga tours. I just show up occasionally at certain places.
Yeah. But at the time, like when you got down here. Because I guess I think I met you over the years, at different places, and you were definitely, you seem pretty good. You look pretty well. You seem relaxed. But, like, there were times where, like, I was just happy to see a guy that seemed more angry than I was at the time, because I was just a kid. But also just sort of, like, off stage, there was, like, you were, like, just frenetic and just fucking like, oh, my God, this guy's about to pop.
Yeah, there was that period.
You get on stage and right away it was like, oh Jesus, what's happening?
And it was a lot of peer group pressure. Like I'd read, John Belushi did what? Well, I got to try a speedball. I gotta, like everything Pryor did. Well, I got to try that because Richard Pryor.
You were that guy?
Oh yeah.
Kennison was like that too.
Yeah.
This weird sort of like, I'll show them.
Yeah, I got to try it. I'll represent my group.
I think Kennison actually went up to the Chateau to do it. That was where he was like that. But so did you get strung out?
I was a heroin addict for a couple of years, but then again, when other comedians would ask me how I quit, and I tell them I got on my knees, I prayed, and I didn't even go through withdrawals. It stopped.
Really?
And like the following week, I played at a club in Atlanta, which was notorious for paying us off in drugs, and I just no thanks, I quit. And I was very lucky. I don't know really how.
Did you stop everything, or you just stopped that?
Yeah, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's been a long time?
It's been, 30 years almost with no hard drugs whatsoever.
Shit.
I mean, after my liver transplant, I asked my doctors if it was okay to smoke pot. And I was surprised that the head doctor, Toronto General Hospital, he said, we'd prefer you to eat it than smoke it. So now occasionally I'll have a brownie or something, that's it.
So was the liver thing, was that from drugs or alcohol? 'Cause
yeah,
it seems
I
like a
mean,
long time back. You must have really
I contracted Hep C, and then that caused the liver damage.
Oh.
And when I went public with it, a whole bunch of people from that era of the punk scene in Ottawa, they contacted me and said, I have it too. I have it too. I have it too. And then, when I asked them of how they got it, and they said, well, I never used needles. And then I thought, well, how did we all get it from the same time period, and half of us didn't use needles? It was from the saliva on the dollar bills that we passed when we snorted any drugs.
Seriously?
Yeah, the blood, Coke was cut with a bunch of stuff to make make profit. And if you had a cut in your nose, the saliva and the blood
really
would and as soon as you make contact with somebody else's blood, welcome to the club. You're part of the Hep C. But I was surprised it lay dormant in my body for almost 23 years.
You had no idea you had it?
Yeah, I was just going along. I thought I was getting tired of being on the road a lot, but my wife suggested I go for a checkup when I visited my father who was in the hospital in Ottawa, and a Canadian doctor found out the real problem within 1 or 2 blood tests.
Really?
Yeah.
Now,
and it was L.A. doctors had totally. Well, you're just tired from being on the road. They didn't.
They didn't go.
They didn't
really?
find out the reason. But
and how long ago was that diagnosis?
I had my liver transplant March 2013, so it was about 2 years before that when I was diagnosed with the Hep C.
You just missed the cure.
Yeah. So I literally had to stay in Canada. When I was diagnosed, my father, who was still in the hospital, he said, you can't go back to the States because you'll die. And I said, yeah, you're right. So my wife had to endure doing renovations to sell our house in Glendale for a whole year by herself. And then she rejoined me in Ottawa a year later.
So let's backtrack a bit, because so you had a house in Glendale, and you're one of these guys, not unlike Scheidner and some other cats that were really able to make a living during the 80s. But were there, once you moved down here, what year did you move down here?
I think it was 88, 89.
So kind of late after the boom. So you were living in Canada but touring America, right?
Well, even when I lived down here, the majority of my stand-up was done in Canada because I was just more well-known and it was easier to get gigs.
But was there opportunities that happened down here? Did you get deals and shit?
A little bit, but I have a whole history of the bad luck. I mean, one year I was put on a holding deal with CBS, and I was given $60,000 for the holding deal, $60,000 to write a pilot. Went through the whole rigmarole, and just before we shot the pilot, the CBS president says no, and he says no to the independent producer who's been channeling me through.
Right.
And the reason was this guy had been the president last year.
Right.
And he had treated his right-hand man poorly. So now the right-hand man, who's the current president, said, this is all. And so I'm sitting there going, this
collateral damage.
Yeah. Collateral damage for $120,000. And this is how Hollywood works? Oh, my God.
But you got the bread, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I had a series of bad luck stuff like that. Like I got a new agent, and he said, okay, we're going to put you where you belong. I got my 2 biggest clients, Steve Martin and John Kennedy, work for the next 5 years. Let's concentrate on Mike now. And I go, great. We finally found somebody. 3 days later, he gets up in the middle of the night, has drink water, has a heart attack. And I'm going, oh, my God.
He's dead?
Yeah. So I have a series of 3 or 4 people that have died once they realized that I was good, that I would be good for them. And so the joke after a while was, don't like me too much, because if you want to live.
Maybe you were being truthful with Sam. Maybe the souls. You needed the souls so you could live.
Yeah, I had a string of bad luck. I never understood. And then, of course, there was the stuff that I used to hate was going on these auditions where the manager and agent would say, yeah, they asked for you.
Yeah.
Oh, they saw your special. They love you. And I'd go there, and there'd be 15 Chinese guys, and I'm going, what the hell am I doing? And then the casting guy would come out, and you are?
Yeah,
and I
of course.
go, why you?
It takes a long time to realize they're lying to you.
Yeah, I just couldn't handle that. And then I was diagnosed in 1993 with bipolar manic depressive, and that just flipped me out. When the moment I realized,
I remember that. I remember running into you like that. Yeah.
When I couldn't get on Letterman to promote the third special, and I was listening to my manager on the phone, and their attitude was, we don't care that it's his third special. We don't need him on the show. And that's when I realized, oh my God, comedy's not like sports. No matter how good we are, there's no guarantee that we'll be playing on a team.
Oh no, it's not a meritocracy.
Yeah,
no.
It's just like, and that flipped me out.
The worst.
I wanted to check out at that point. I tried suicide a couple times.
You did?
Yeah, and then fortunately, I had a good experience in a psych ward in Glendale at the Adventist Hospital that turned me around. But I've been struggling with it ever since. To keep it in check.
So you think that all the drugs outside of wanting to match your heroes'
Well,
usage.
I certainly believe in the theory that the drugs escalated the effect of the mental illness.
Right, but do you believe that you're self-medicating?
Yeah. For a lot of it, yeah.
Like, because were you always depressed? Did you actually have mania?
Well, my cycle, I would get really, really angry. I'd blow up.
That was your mania?
Yeah.
It wasn't
really,
like you
really,
didn't go buy shit?
And then I would get really depressed and want to kill myself. It was
For months on end?
Yeah, very simple cycle.
Ugh.
And I would just have these, what my wife would call episodes.
She'd stay with you through all this shit?
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. I've been with the same woman for 30 years, and she's seen me at my worst and my best,
Wow. So when you say you tried to kill yourself, what do you mean? You really tried to?
Well, the thing in California, I had this thing where I would get mad and I would storm out of the house because I didn't want to, lay it on my wife completely.
Well, that was like proactive.
Well, a little bit. but it took a while before I just go, I better get out of here. So I drive by the gun store in Glendale, and I'd say, oh my God, if I would have signed up for it last week, I'd have the gun now, or I could kill
use it.
But it's that stupid 7-day waiting rule that they have in California, which was, it's a very good law because most people calm down after 7 days. They don't stay in that state.
Well, it's like that Jimmy Tingle joke where the guy goes in to get a gun. It's like, I need a gun. And he says, well, there's a waiting period. And the guy goes, how long? And the guy's like, 7 days. Like, well, the guy will be gone by then.
Yeah. Exactly. So finally, one time I was mad again. I was having an episode, and I said, okay, I'm going to go in there and sign up for the gun because I will get mad again.
Right.
This will
Planning
happen
ahead.
Again. Yeah. But so when I went in there, Glendale's a Republican stronghold.
Yeah.
And I realized that immediately when I walked into the gun store. There was a poster of the Clintons with crosshairs on their faces. And
really?
I went, ooh, Republican gun store.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the guns. I'm really shy because I'm not a gun person. Even though they're under glass, I got my hands behind my back, and I'm like looking at them. And the guy comes over and goes, oh, you're looking for a gun? For what purpose? And I said, security, which is, the safe word for those people. Of course, security.
Yeah.
He pulls out this gun and he goes, don't be fooled by the size. It has 14 in the clip and 1 in the chamber. And I said, oh, in case there's 2 of them. And nothing. Nothing from the guy. He's just deadpan. Like, all right, let's look at this other guy. And finally, he pulls out this card and he says, look, I run a target range on the other side of town. Why don't you come, buy some ammo, rent some guns, see which one you feel comfortable with, and then that's when it hit me. No 7-day waiting period.
If you kill yourself at the range?
At the target range. So I thought, oh, this is the plan. This is foolproof.
Yeah.
And the only thing that saved me was that thing in the back of my brain that my mother don't get caught with dirty underwear. So I had to go home and shower and change and stuff.
Really?
And while I was doing all that, my wife had left the house. She knew I was like overboard. She phones my manager, and I'm just about to leave to go to the target range. I wrote the note and everything. And it's my manager on the phone, and fortunately, he also represented Dr. Drew Pinsky.
Yeah.
So we had Drew on the other line, and they talked me into going to the hospital. And my attitude was like, yeah, sure, I'll go to the hospital. But I've got that card. I can go anytime I want. So, yeah, I'll go through the motions for you guys. And thankfully, it was a great experience at the psych ward that made me think, okay, maybe I'll give the medication a shot.
Pinsky stepped in?
Yeah.
He's a smart guy.
He convinced me to go to the hospital. I went, and I actually had a good stay. I mean, I was supposed to be there for 72 hours, but at the end of the 72 hours when they wanted to release me, I said, I really like it here. It's been great. I just participate in group therapy, and all I have to take a shower a day and fill out the food thing, and it's fun. These people are great. And I've got everybody's button. I can make everybody laugh. I felt like, Jack Nicholson in the Cuckoo's Nest. I had everybody's button. There's this one kid, all I had to go was, and he'd go, that's a stay. He'd be laughing like crazy.
You were killing.
Yeah, I was worried. And no one could come, no one could phone me, no one could visit me unless I said so. So it was the first time I had complete control over anything like that
in your life.
Yeah, and so at the end of 72 hours, they go, okay, they diagnosed me as bipolar manic depressive. They gave me a prescription. And I said, well, I really like it here. Is there any way I can stay? And the doctor goes, well, I can't answer that question morally, ethically. And I went, oh, I understand. I still want to kill myself. Sign here. So I stayed for 2 weeks, 72 hours at a time, but 2 weeks, I still want to kill myself.
How long were you in there total? 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. Best vacation I ever had. It was like, some people like to go to the beach. I like going to the psych ward.
So they checked you in for the observation thing?
Yeah, well, it's a mandatory suicide watch for 72 hours. So you've gotten to the
point where your manager knew, too, that you
were. I mean, when my wife told them all the stuff that was going on. And I was very lucky that I couldn't manipulate them to get out earlier, because that's what happened with Richard Jenny. At one point, he talked his way out of a 72-hour, a mandatory suicide watch. And, later we all, when we found out, we went, well, how did he, they should have kept them in. They shouldn't have let him walk out in the middle of a 72-hour thing.
He had the real manic episodes, right? The paranoia and the...
Yeah, it was very unfortunate, because there was another guy that,
Your generation, you knew that guy.
Yeah.
You want to know something fucked up? I was doing his weekend when he did it.
Wow.
That he was in bad enough shape that he canceled it. And it was just one of these weird-ass coincidences. This Saturday night, we found out, and I didn't draw. I guess they gave everyone the heads up. But
but it's a crazy thing. Like I said in my act,
but he had a lot of guns. You're lucky you didn't have any.
Well, yeah, I didn't know other than going to the target range. That was my big eureka plan.
That was your big plan. It's like, I'll show them a target. Yeah. I'll show them what a good shot I am.
And it was weird, because I debated whether or not to bring it out on stage, because I didn't want to influence somebody to go do it. But then 60 Minutes came out with a piece about it, and there's apparently 8 people a year do it in the United States.
At shooting ranges?
Yeah. And my first thought was, only 8? I was surprised it was such a small number.
Was your other thought like, I thought that was my idea?
Yeah, wait a minute. But I figured if they talked about it, it's okay to say it. And then I mentioned, don't kill yourself at the end.
So you did bits about it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, everything was fodder for the act.
Always. Once you got rid of the tennis racket.
Yeah, exactly. But I learned a long time ago. I play the cards that I've been dealt. So I was dealt the addiction card. I was dealt the manic depressive, and now I'm dealt the transplant thing.
Wow, it's like you're lucky, man. You're lucky.
I was very lucky.
But on a lot of levels, you have this bad luck that you think you have in show business, but on the other side,
the marriage thing. I've been very lucky that way. So yeah, I've had my good luck and I've had my bad luck.
So when you got out of the psych ward, what year was that? Was that?
I think 93.
Oh, yeah?
Something like that, yeah, 94.
And by that time, you're not using any drugs, but, so they got you on some sort of medication that worked?
For a while, and then they said, well, okay, we have this new drug that you don't have to go through the same, like on lithium originally, I had to take a monthly blood test to make sure the levels were.
Yeah.
So they had a new drug that came in that you didn't have to do all the blood tests and stuff. So I said, okay, great, I'll try that. And then there was a couple others. I tried one that it really affected me doing the stand-up, where I was in a corp gig in Florida with old people. And I just went blank, white noise, and just I couldn't remember a word of my act. And I was so fortunate that after the gig, the guy who booked me, he's saying, what the hell, you stopped 5 minutes into it. You couldn't do the show. What's wrong with you? Oh, I'm on this new drug, topical, or whatever it was called. Topamax, I think it was. And he said, "Oh, my wife's been on that. She's been in bed for 2 years now. She can't function." Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I was lucky again that
Let
the
you off the
guy,
hook.
yeah, the guy understood and said, "Okay."
How old were the people in the audience? Did they know the show was short?
Oh, yeah. They were really angry that I had stopped. And I was saying to them as they were leaving, disgruntled, saying, "Oh, this is unprofessional." Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, if this is the worst thing that happens to you today, God bless you. But think about from my end, I don't know what's going on. I can't function now. It's like I think I have the worst of this."
And what'd they do to level you off? Are you leveled off now?
Yeah, they switched me off that drug to something else. The whole drug thing, it's like a crapshoot. You find. You hopefully you can find something that has the least amount of side effects for you and it works, But sometimes it takes trying 3-4 different medications before you find the one that works for you.
Did you always do a lot of corporate gigs?
To a point, you
Yeah.
know. But it was always like I used to always think it was funny because I would tell people, I can clear this room without saying fuck. It's not that those swear words are not the ones you got to worry about. It's the ideas that I can clear this room without swearing at all.
Yeah, that's a point of pride.
Yeah.
I can make everybody so sad and uncomfortable.
But it was funny, though, in Florida with the old people, I used to always do the joke when I did a corp gig. Yeah, the guy that booked me, he said, "Don't say the F word. Don't say the F word." What the hell? I'm going to say it. Funeral. All right, boom. And everybody's happy and everybody calms down and enjoys the show. But, I mean, it's ridiculous when they go, a person who's 98 years old, do you think they can't handle somebody saying fuck out loud?
Well, that's true. Yeah, the old
this
guy.
This guy's been through the war.
Yeah,
It's like,
a couple of them.
Yeah.
Did you know Rodney?
I met him briefly through Sam. One time I was in New York, he was there, and Rodney was doing the headline set, and Sam goes, "Hey, you want to meet him?" I go, "Oh, yeah, fine, of course, it's Rodney."
Yeah.
We go in there, and he doesn't even knock. He just opens the door. Rodney's in the bathrobe with a towel around. He's all sweaty, and he's doing a line of coke, right?
Yeah.
And he looks up, he goes, "Hey, Sam." And he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he looks at me, and he goes to Sam like, "Oh, who's this guy?"
Yeah.
And Sam goes, "No, he's cool. And then I go, "Oh, hi, Mr. Dangerfield. It was a fantastic set. Like every bit worked. I loved it. And there was a lot of it I had never heard before."
Yeah.
And then he turns to Sam and he goes, "I thought you said he was cool." And I thought, all right, I shouldn't say anything else for the rest of the night. I overstepped. I was a fan there
too
for
excited.
a minute. Yeah. I thought you said he was cool.
That must have been great. So you hung out with Sam a lot?
Occasionally, like I could get his attention by, like, a lot of people at the time, they would get his attention by imitating Dice. Mm-hmm. But they would always imitate the certain voice, and I would go Dice had two voices.
Yeah.
So I would imitate, "Why is Sam so upset with me?" And that would make him turn around and go, "Oh, MacDonald, oh, you bastard."
Yeah.
I think Sam was the quintessential. Remember on the Ed Sullivan Show, they had these acts, the spinning plates.
Yeah.
They have the little band,
Sure.
and they'd spin all the... Sam was like that. Sam would go into a party and he'd go, "Oh, how you doing? Oh, Mark, how you doing, you son of a bitch? Oh, MacDonald."
Yeah.
He'd spin all the plates.
Yeah, he was a charming motherfucker.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, people would realize he's not in the room anymore. He's somewhere in the bathroom doing drugs.
Yeah.
And all the plates would fall.
Where's Sam? What's going on? I thought I was going to get some drugs.
Hey, man.
He's going to do more.
I thought it was on the inside.
Yeah. Everyone thought they were on the inside.
Yeah.
I had to reckon with a lot of that shit, because look at that. That's an old picture of me and Sam up there when I was way out of my mind. But he was he really fucked with you, man. He's a real brain fucker, that guy.
He was a funny. I mean, he was one of those guys that made me laugh out loud.
It was fun to be around him. When he wasn't fucking
Yeah.
attacking you, or
Yeah.
you weren't on his bad side.
But there's plenty of times now I wish that, like, Bill Hicks was still around. I wish Sam was still around, because I'd like to hear their interpretation of what's going on now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need a couple more voices on our side talking about it right now.
Well, everyone's talking about, though, and like big mainstream guys are talking about it, and some of them are holding the line pretty well.
I was very surprised.
I'd be curious how Sam would feel about this guy. I don't know what side he would fall on, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there could be a 50-50 on that. I could just see him at the inaugural ball. Oh, you pussies that wouldn't perform.
Yeah.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
You could.
Bruce Springsteen, fuck you.
Right.
You know,
You could.
I could see him
You
doing
could
it.
definitely, like, I know what side Bill would be on, but I don't know. Sam's a wild card. I think that he and Trump are a lot alike in some
Sam
ways.
would spin his plate really good, maybe.
Well, I think that he and Donald would love each other. I really do.
That'd be wild.
But yeah, I do miss that renegade force in stand-up that you don't see it much. I mean, Doug, Stanhope's out there doing his thing, and I think he's definitely of that ilk.
Yeah.
And has real balls in that area. But the weird thing is it was never a mainstream activity. So, Sam was the only guy that broke through because he had the gimmick.
Yeah.
But, and then he'd trick you. Because it's like, oh shit, he just tricked us into, thinking that was funny. Holy shit, am I fucked up? But Bill was always outside of it. So who are those guys now? There's only a handful at a time, but I don't know who they are. You?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anybody that matches the intensity of Sam now.
No.
And that's what was always the yellers, that intensity of emotion was always attractive.
And he had those
Sam was
those
a natural.
preacher chops.
Oh yeah. And,
right.
The times that he would go into the preaching thing to show the audience that he used to do it. I was like,
crazy.
oh, yeah. This guy could have been, he could have been Jimmy Swaggart. He could have made a ton of money that way,
That
too.
was the plan originally.
Yeah. And the same debauchery would happen.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But not as public.
Yeah, just be low key.
Yeah, which was not his specialty.
Yeah.
Low key was not the trick. That was not the deal. So now let's talk about, you're still performing now. You're back at it?
Yeah, full time again. Yeah.
And where do you go usually?
Usually just in Canada. I keep finding work.
Yeah, has Breslin still run you?
To a point. There's a certain amount of gigs that are yucks, but thankfully, I'm very lucky to have a couple of people that somehow they find these gigs for me, and they, and I really appreciate it, and and they open for me and stuff like that. But
that's good.
It's nice to have people in your corner.
Well, walk me through. I've never said this before, but now I want to know. Walk me through a liver transplant. So, like, what? Yeah. So you find out that your liver's rotten, and what are the steps that have to happen?
Well, it's a weird thing because there was a window of opportunity that you had to be sick enough to be moved up the list.
Yeah.
But you also had to be well enough to survive the surgery.
Yeah.
So there was a point there where they said you have about 2.5 months to live without the transplant.
Yeah.
It's now or never. And thankfully,
I remember when it happened. I remember you needed help.
Well,
I'd like to think I helped.
I was very surprised that they had a night at the Laugh Factory.
Right.
And Jamie and everything, they put together this thing where they sent me a check that I survived on for like 5 months.
Yeah, I don't remember. Was there a Kickstarter or somewhere to send money?
Yeah. But I got a check that was way bigger than any Canadian conglomerate kind of situation.
And it kept you going. So, all right, so you got 2 months to live with the liver you have.
And I got the call and said, hey, we got the liver. You have to drive. So I had to drive to Toronto. They said, you got 8 hours to get here or else we have to give it to the next person. So I looked at my wife. My wife said, let's pack. And she drove me to Toronto, which was like
from where?
From Ottawa, which is like a 6-hour drive.
So you're up there because you were sick. You had to be up there.
Yeah. I was living with my mother at the time. And then, my wife joined me finally.
Yeah.
But, they phoned, and we had to zip to Toronto in record time, and we got there and everything. But I had no idea, like, the liver doesn't get the press the heart and the lungs do, but the liver controls not only everything physical, but everything mental. So although the transplant was a total success, my bipolarism was it hit the stratosphere with the reaction to all the drugs I had to take for the transplant. So within 3 weeks of my initial release from the hospital, I was readmitted to the Toronto General Hospital psych ward. I spent 26
So you got the
days
liver.
there. Yeah, I was catatonic suicidal again.
You got the liver and it's taking.
Yeah, everything was a success as far as the actual operation. But,
okay.
But then the mental health thing complicated everything.
And there you are, scarred and weak, and you got to go back to the psych ward?
Catatonic. You were back in the psych ward, and they couldn't do anything for me.
But they knew they were able to connect the fact that you had the new liver with...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There was still the procedures I had to follow for the new liver stuff. Like I had to take, 6 to 8 pills twice a day type of thing.
But who made the connection that the liver had some impact on the brain?
It was like immediately when I saw a psychiatrist.
Oh, really?
They said, he's the liver. Yeah, that's the reason. We got to get him in here, and we got to. But they had no idea how to because I didn't want to participate in anything. I didn't want to talk. I said 1 or 2 words the whole day, and they just freaked out. They put me on Ritalin, just to get me emotional about anything.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there going, I don't care. The doctor would come in and go, have you had any suicidal thoughts today? And I go, not till you came in. And he'd write that down, not till I came. And I go, if you don't know if that was a joke, you're not going to, you people are idiots. We have a great healthcare system in Canada, but we have room for improvement when it comes to mental health. I think in general, the whole world
Is that true?
Needs to up its game with the mental health.
So how long are you in, sort of that zone of, what is this going to take?
It was a good 6 months before I even tried to, make a joke or, feel normal again. And then it was like another year before I got comfortable on stage.
But in terms of it actually not rejecting, how long does that take?
Oh, well, it's there was never, that took right away. But I also realized the importance of I had to take the anti-rejection drugs twice a day, every day.
For how long?
For the rest of my life.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's
no kidding.
Either you're in, you're out. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But I resigned myself a long time ago with the mental health thing that, if a pill works, I'm taking it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that have problems taking
with
the
the
pills.
edge. You're going to lose your edge. You had enough of your edge. Yeah.
But the weird thing about after the transplant, I completely forgot everything I'd ever written.
Really?
I couldn't remember a word of my act. And one night in the hospital, I came to in the middle of the night, and I had left the TV on, the little hospital bed TV.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and it was me just for laughs 10 years ago.
One of those galas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and I couldn't believe that I was saying all these things in a row, and I couldn't understand how, what am I doing? And I thought I had nightmares about having to get a day job, and, what am I qualified for?
Yeah.
A security guard. That's about it.
Right.
And that's, it was... so
you had to
Yeah, I had to virtually start over. And the only nice thing about it was when I went to these open mics every night, they were thrilled that I was there.
So you actually really started over. So you got your psych meds leveled off. You're on your anti-rejection drugs. You know that you had an act at some point, but that was gone. Yeah. So you got to go to open mics.
Yeah.
And you're feeling it out.
And the only thing I can remember was the jokes I wrote about the recovery. So, and thankfully most of them worked right away. So I was lucky that way. And then the people at the open mics, they would let me do as much time as I wanted because they were just thrilled that I was there. I went to everything. I mean, the most out of the way, small little 30 people, whatever, I'd go and do, and I had to start over.
And this was 2013?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, I had to start over. It took a good year to get anywhere near comfortable on stage again.
What did you feel fear? Or was it just sort of you didn't think you were funny? What was...
Well, it was just weird, and, I had to go back and watch tapes to learn to be myself again. And the only nice thing was I would laugh out loud at something, and then I'd realize, oh, wait a minute, that's mine. I can do it again. Oh, great, the greatest hits. So I got the new stuff. I got the greatest hits. All right, we're ready to headline again.
So everybody got to watch.
Yeah.
You put it back together.
Yeah, and they were all amazed that I came back because I looked really deathly before I got the liver transplant. There was plenty of exposure on the Canadian media, news shows. They followed the story.
Were you orange?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at pictures now. There was a point where 3 months in a row I took a picture of myself every day.
Yeah.
And I look at those pictures now and I go, oh my God, I really was dead. People thought I was, going to be dead. They were going to pick up the paper and read. I
remember hearing that you were going to be dead.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
People making bets on it.
Sure. Yeah. Stanhope's death pool. You beat it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, you look healthy. You look,
it's not bad.
Full of life.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I'd like to lose a few pounds right now. That'd be the only thing. But yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And you're living back here?
No, I'm still living in Ottawa. That's where I had to resettle and stuff. But being here for the week, this is the first time I've been anywhere in the United States in 5 years.
Oh, yeah?
And being back in L.A. and stuff, there is that itch. There is that thing like, let's try it again.
Don't do it to yourself.
I'm worried. But I think I'm going to try the outside pitch. I have a couple of scripts that if I can get one of those anywhere, then maybe I can stay outside of Hollywood. And
don't come here without a reason, without some money.
Exactly.
Some incentive. But is it nice to be back in Ottawa? I mean, I go to Canada now and I'm like, whatever I used to think about it, I'm like, this is comfortable.
Well, yeah, it's a little, you just feel safer. You just feel everything is calmer. And yet we have everything like what I call the best of the United States.
Sure.
We have HBO, we have show, we have all the movies and the games
Food.
and everything. But the murder rate, no, you can keep that.
Yeah.
No, we only want a quarter of that.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. It's like America without the constant anxiety, without the panic.
Yeah.
There's just an intensity here where and I know, I used to think when I got to Canada, well, this is odd. Why are these people sitting outside? It's nighttime. This guy's just riding his bike? What the fuck is happening? It's 10:30 at night.
Exactly.
Doesn't he know there's trouble at every turn?
Somebody could kill this guy.
Exactly. I was like, what is happening?
You're an easy target.
They're just walking at
You
night.
just open up your wallet. You're outside. What are you doing?
Right, exactly. But now I go up there, I'm like, this is all right.
Yeah.
People aren't freaked out. Yeah. Everybody's hiding this freaked out.
It's just a little calmer.
Exactly.
And it's ironic when you see the statistics, like per capita, more Canadians have guns than Americans.
Yeah, but they're not nuts.
But the shootings are, the difference in the stats is amazing.
It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, do you know why that is?
They're just a little calmer. A little laid back, like when you say somebody from Canada, you go, "Oh, Canada's a great country." Oh, thank you. We try.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When you say America's the best, you're fucking right. It's the best.
Yeah.
Fucking love it or leave it, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, easy.
Yeah, but I still wonder. I assume that. I imagine growing up generationally over the years with the knowledge that you will get health care. Whether it's good or bad or what, you just know that it's part of your life, that know that's not a question.
No.
I think that means something.
Yeah, it's like the deal breaker in Canada is that people don't mind paying high taxes because they know it's going to go for things like, healthcare
and infrastructure.
Yeah,
that's
the thing that Americans, I think, they forget. It's a good thing to pay tax. It's not something to admire, the fact that Trump didn't pay any taxes for X amount of years. It's more admirable to pay taxes because we all want people to live and have an education, this and that. There's things that
not
you
so
pay
much here.
for.
The education and the living here. It's sort of like
here it's like I got away with it. I got away with it.
Right.
I got away with it.
Right.
It's not a thing to be admired.
I
that you got away with it.
I agree. And what do you think of your guy? That Trudeau fella.
Well, I've never been like a big political comedian.
But just living there.
That, but
he's all right or no?
Of course, there's people up there that swear that he's the worst thing ever and blah, blah. And then the other go, well, yeah, but the last guy was worse and this and that. And it's always these arguments.
Sure.
I think the thing I hate the most about social media now is people have this intense desire to let people know what they don't like. I don't care what you don't like.
That's all of it.
Just tell us what you like.
Let me react to something in a negative way.
It's just, there's this intense desire.
But when you see that on a tweet or on Facebook, it's like, having a great day today. It's like, then everyone's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you?
That's the response. What are you trying to pull? It's like,
well, I'm glad you're doing well, Mike. It
Cool,
was nice to see you. It was great talking to you finally.
Great, man. Thanks.
All right. There you go. Some hardcore comedy show there. That's what that is. That's what this was. So what do you want to do? You go to WTFpod.com for all your WTF pod needs. You can pre-order the book. You can get on the mailing list. Hopefully we'll all be alive. And next week. Tomorrow. Whenever. But maybe I'll play some guitar. That probably sounds familiar because I no longer know if I'm repeating myself, but I only play 3 chords in some variation and occasionally add a chord. I'm dealing with some new effects here. Boomer Live!